So I was born and raised in former Czechoslovakia. In 1997, I came to the United States to attend an MBA course at Harvard Business School. After that, I spent 14 years with Bain & Company, where I was one of the leading partners in the life sciences practice. And after that, immediately before Trillium, I used to run a clinical stage private neuroscience company. I think I had the luck of having some great mentors in my professional career. John Abele, he was the founder, co-founder and chairman of Boston Scientific, who taught me to be always tough and fair. And the second was Bob Langer, an MIT professor. He founded more than 30 biotechs. At one point, he used to call me stubborn, but I personally prefer the term persistent.
First and foremost, I would say I admire Jan's analytical nature. He is very thoughtful, very methodical in terms of how he approaches problems, and there were complex problems that Trillium was facing.
He's a great listener. He asks a lot of questions at all times of the day, night.
He's like a decathlete. You know, I mean, he just does so many things well. He can talk to investors, he can talk to the board, he can understand the science, he can translate that into clinical trials. He's just a really well-rounded guy and does not let that get to his head.
So Trillium was a next-generation immuno-oncology company developing innate immune system checkpoint inhibitors. You are utilizing a patient's own innate immune system to recognize and destroy cancer.
So our connection to Trillium is very strong. We developed the technology around SERP alpha, the don't eat me signal, that has become integral to the Trillium product as they're moving forward into the clinical testing space. Our discovery came from complete serendipity. We filed the IP on that. Trillium seemed very well placed and they were interested in this technology. That turned out to be a hugely productive relationship with them.
Trillium is an important company, I think, because it's saving lives. I work at an investment firm that invested in a lot of different companies, healthcare, but also technology, energy. But extending the life and even curing patients who have cancer, I think, is as good as it gets.
Prior to Jan arriving at Trillium, the mentality of most of the employees was already deflated somewhat. So most of the people that were here during that time were worried about their roles, worried about their positions. There were others that actually decided to go to other opportunities.
There was a lot of hype with CD47 based on the preclinical data, and that wasn't immediately translating into clinical benefit. And so really there was some frustration on the part of investors and the perception of Trillium's programs as really being sort of mired in early clinical development.
So the issues were very serious for Trillium. I think when we first looked, they had 5 to 6 months left of cash, and given the stock price went from $30 to 40 cents, they were also at risk of being delisted from NASDAQ.
There was an almost complete exodus of institutional investors. The market capitalization of the company was at $16 million, and certainly the staff was really worried, was anxious about where the company was headed, whether the company would survive.
Jan came to the company as the new CEO, and at the time he had to make the difficult decision how to keep the company afloat. He let go about 40% of the company. I was included in that 40%.
Jan stepped in and as part of the reorg and as part of sort of the strategic plan, really made a number of changes, not just at the staff level, but also at the program level, which I think resonated well with investors.
He went over all the changes he made, and we were like, wow, like 3 of the biggest concerns we had, Jan also saw as concerns and decided to do something about it. So that just gave us a lot of comfort and made us want to dig in, and then we ended up liking what we saw.
We had a new team in place, a restructured board, a restructured executive team, a world-class SAB. We had $300 million in the bank. We had Pfizer as a partner, and most importantly, we had 2 potentially best-in-class CD47 molecules with clear monotherapy activity.
Trillium was able to demonstrate in its trials initial evidence of efficacy, and that evidence was immediately compelling.
He has also secured a very critical $25 million investment from Pfizer. And with that investment, a very important person within Pfizer organization, his name is Jeff Settleman, who's the Chief Scientific Officer for Pfizer Oncology, has joined the Scientific Advisory Board.
They had a front row seat to see what Jan was doing, and so they liked what they saw and they ended up pulling the trigger on that.
We approached Pfizer if they were interested in topping off their initial equity investment with another $25 million. And during the due diligence, data from a phase 2 program was started coming in indications which were of direct interest, strategic interest to Pfizer. So at that point, actually discussions pivoted into a straight M&A. So the initial bid was at $15 per share. Eventually we ended up at $18.50.
As a shareholder, the return is astounding. The stock had dropped to, I think, 40 cents a share back in September of 2019, and that's a 40x increase in 2+ years. I mean, the IRR on that is astounding.
As a cancer survivor, I love the work that we do here at Trillium. To be able to bring all of this life-saving drugs to someone like me is absolutely astounding.
I really had a very strong sense of patriotic feelings that research that we've done, supported by the public for 30 years, is being commercialized by a Canadian company.
The Trillium story is a story of bringing fresh leadership in the person of Jan at a moment that the company had to really switch gear.
Were we successful? I am not declaring success. The success will come when our CD47 molecules are on the market and they are saving patients' lives.